Hey, this is Evan with Crypto Cash Camp. This is where we talk all about making passive income in the crypto space, but more so what I mean is the DeFi space. And the point of this video and this actual series of videos is to get you acquainted on how to make passive income in this crypto DeFi space. So right now I'm going to break down what is DeFi and why should you care with the context of passive income. So what is it? And I'm going to share it a little line by line. So it's 24/7 running. What that means is it never turns off. Unlike the stock market, it is always on. It can't turn off because essentially it is run on code, and the code doesn't need to sleep. And the code also is permissionless, meaning it doesn't need the SEC, the federal, any sort of federal agency to give it approval, right? If Coinbase lost some sort of a SEC accreditation, it would no longer be an exchange. But with DeFi, everything's run on code, so essentially that's a good and a bad thing, right? So you want to find trustworthy protocols because almost anyone can make a DeFi protocol. So always know that a lot of these different protocols are vetted and they're certified, and people have gone into the code and checked them out. So you can always check that out before you jump into one of these different exchanges or passive income opportunities. And an example of why this is so great is, say you're in Myanmar, it's super hard to go buy some American stocks, or if you're in Mexico to get into the stock market. But with some of these protocols, when I say protocol, I mean like website that actually carries out some sort of a function. There's websites like Mir that allow you to use your crypto to actually buy Apple, Airbnb, AMD, Amazon, Alibaba. Sometimes there's a little bit of a premium, but that's part of how this protocol makes it work. All right, so if we were to go into something else and explain how these work, they're all run on smart contracts, meaning they're all run on code, meaning you don't need a team of people there in a big office. Like an insurance firm is not one of these giant offices full of people crunching paperwork. It's literally code. So if someone wants to say for example, buy insurance in DeFi, and I just heard this example, and say crop insurance, and if the temperature goes above 95 degrees for 4 days, the crop insurance will pay out $100,000, and they pay $1,000 a month for this crop insurance. So that's a really interesting way of making everything automatic, so you don't have to go through someone who's actually giving certification. So in this case, the code is the law. Okay, and it's not controlled by anyone. As I said earlier, if Coinbase were to have some regulatory issues, it would have to shut down. The SEC didn't like them, the federal government had an issue with them, they could shut them down and potentially freeze your money. But, for example, you can't freeze your money in the crypto DeFi space. Your money is actually, here I'm going to show you, is actually in your wallet, and it's only accessible by anyone who knows a seed phrase. Hopefully your seed phrase and no one else knows it. 12 words that give you access to all your money. Really can't be hacked by any sort of hackers or any random password generator because it's so complex. And this is where your money is. No bank or central authority can freeze this. This is yours. And unlike banks, like for example in Argentina, this is where they did the Caralito, where the market was tanking. They limited people to $250 a week. So their money was frozen while the money just tanked and the value went to nothing. And most people lost huge amounts of their net worth. And also made a lot of people very weary of banks. Also, for example, if you are in, Myanmar right now, you can wait in lines for hours for an ATM and there can be no money. So these are things that DeFi helps you to circumvent. And that's why it's an amazing tool. So let's jump into the fun part of where can you make money? Because everyone's in this, to make money as a main part, but also to engage in the future of finance. So if we were to go to a couple things, let's look at Anchor right now. Anchor is an application heavily trusted where if you deposit your money, you can earn 19.55%. Remember, there is 11 billion locked up here, so it's highly trustworthy, been around for a while. So you can range over to something like even this. You can give 2 coins. You can lock up your DAI, which is a stable coin, and USDC, another stable coin that we'll get into later. And you can make 23%. So anything above that anchor is pretty interesting. But if you want to go really crazy and you think 23% is not enough for you, well, there's applications like Wonderland Finance with the time token. And this, if you take your time token, you buy it, and you stake it, you'll be making 70,000%. Remember, always use caution with these. A lot of times if there's a big APY, a big reward, there's also a coin price that's falling, and that's what's happening right now for this coin. So always be aware, and don't just think the highest percent thing is the thing you should go into. Always look into security and what's going to be the best for the long run. All right, so there is different chains, and there's also different gas for every chain. So I just want to let you know that, because not everyone totally gets what this whole crypto thing is. Mostly, in this training, in these multi-course trainings, we're going to just use MetaMask. And MetaMask has a few chains, many chains actually, but we're going to just focus on ones you maybe have heard, like Ethereum, Binance, Polygon, Avalanche, even Phantom. So if you don't know what those are, it doesn't really matter, but for each chain to make a transaction, whether it's buy a coin here at an exchange, you need to have a little bit of gas in that native token to pay for the transaction. That's how this whole system keeps running, is there's a little gas that it takes for all the transactions to happen, whether that's the BNB in the Binance chain, or that is the Avalanche AVAX in the AVAX chain, and they all have slightly different prices, but really do know that Ethereum is extremely expensive. A swap on Avalanche that could cost 50 cents could cost $50 or more on Ethereum. So you've heard a lot about it, but using it is a little more difficult because it can be very expensive. All right, so now we're going to just do a little broad overview of the different types of DeFi protocols that are out there. These are not all the different categories, but these are some of the main ones. So the first one is staking, and essentially staking is providing liquidity or coins that you have in exchange for money. And what you're doing is you can always pull out the liquidity depending on the protocol. Sometimes there's a lock phase. But in doing so, you're supporting the network you're giving the coins to, and as a result, they give you a little bit of a kickback for doing so. And here's an example. On Lido, which is the biggest one, there is 10 billion staked, 5% for ETH, 8% for Terra, 6% for Solana. So that's very, very interesting. But if you want to get a little bit more complex, we go to farming. So farming involves providing 2 coins, and as a result, the exchange is usually always paying out in their exchange token. Some are more valuable than others, some appreciate, some drop, but you can always sell the exchange token when you get it. Sometimes they give you a coin that's locked up for a certain amount of time, so it's always really important to read the white paper, which you can always see down here. You click on something that looks like a paper, or you read white paper, and it gets into all the details. And for example, here you see that it's paying out 46%, but we go down, you see 9%, okay, 10% here, 13%, that's 23%. Where's the rest of the money coming from? It's coming from their native token, so they're giving you an extra incentive to do it, which brings out the APR to 42%, which is really pretty good for stablecoins. So then, let's go back here. There's also lending and looping. When I bring in looping, I like to do that, but it's a little higher risk. And let me just show you a little example of what this is you can supply, say you have USDC, you can supply USDC right here, and you would be making 11% USDC plus 3% from their native token, so at 14%. And if you see right here, I think the collateral, meaning you can borrow 75% of the USDC you've deposited. And get this, if you haven't looked into this, it's crazy. You can then make money by borrowing. Yeah, get that. Make money by borrowing. You can make 27% by borrowing. Huge incentive to do that. So you can borrow 75%. I would not recommend going to the max. And then you can throw it back into the deposit, and it brings up your collateral level, and then you can borrow more, put it in, so you're earning on not only the supply side, but also the borrow side. And it allows you to loop. I only recommend looping in a low risk level with stable coins, but it also depends on gas fees because it can cost a lot. So remember, if the stablecoin goes down, all your assets can be liquidated and there can be a pretty significant fee. So this is higher risk. All right, let's go over to the next one, which is liquidating. Liquidating is something that the big banks do when you have leverage, like margin. A lot of people have margin, and then their margin drops, below the margin limit in stocks. And what happens is they have to sell out all their stocks at a very low price, and people lose a lot of money this way. And banks make a lot of money, and so do brokerages. But now you can be that person making money. These are people that are potentially going to get liquidated, and you can bid on a certain amount, and as a result, you can buy their assets at a discount to keep this whole market efficient. Pretty amazing. And there's also, it's not very easy to be, say, for example, buy newly listed coins. Well, you can do that in the public market. It's called an IPO for stocks, but IDOs, initial DEX offerings, ICOs, initial coin offerings, you can do that in crypto too. So these are the ways some people make 10, 20, 30, 100x on coins. This is a very popular one, Polkastarter. There's a few things you have to do to actually get into this, including locking your Polkadot coins for quite a long time. But it's amazing where some of the most popular games and apps coming out can launch here. You can buy them early, and then potentially they pump up, and then you can sell, or you just hold on for the long time. So, in summary, there is so much you can do right now in DeFi, and there's many passive income strategies, and that's why I dedicate most of my time to DeFi, because it just takes that much time to wrap my head around it. So in this channel, I try to explain to you all the inner workings of DeFi. I'm going to go through, there's going to be a multi-part series, so click next or watch the next video, which should be coming out soon. And if you want more tips on the different passive income opportunities I'm doing, my goal is to get 1,000 people to $50 a day. If that's something you're interested in, please consider subscribing, and I will talk to you guys soon.